Okay, I finished Malcolm's Bridge this morning, and I gotta say, for me, I finished this book in record time. I'm a slow reader. I try to read about 20 minutes every day. It takes me usually about a month to read a novel, but lately I've been getting faster. I read this in 10 days. I'm finished it today. So we're gonna review it. But before we start, who am I? My name is Cody Siengdahl. I'm the author you know. I'm the author of five published novels, soon to be six. And this whole channel is not so much, excuse me, I have we'll get to that. Um, but this channel is all about the journey. I'm an author, I'm an independent author, and here I talk about writing, I review books, I talk about my journey as an independent of the marketing and the whole process. So enough of that. Let's get right down to it. So first of all, I just want to say one last thing. I'm recovering from tongue cancer. I've had a lot of radiation done and chemotherapy. It makes it a little difficulty for me to speak, and that's why I sound the way I do. So bear with me on this. Okay. So Malcolm's Bridge by Elmore Loyd Jr. Now I will tell you that I am friends with Elmore Loyd Jr. and so much so that I have to read his name. No, it's just because I always say the wrong thing and I get his name mixed up with Elmore. Now I can't think of the other guy, but it's Loyd Elmore Jr. And I know him in real life. If you don't believe me, just look at the thumbnail of us together at one of my gigs. So, real quick thing about Loyd. So Loyd knew me from back when I used to be on TV. I was in local news here in Nashville, and then I wrote my first novel after I left that job. And Loyd knew me from the station, but Loyd was an aspiring writer. He hadn't written anything yet, and but loved to read and loved writers. And came out to a gig where I was playing the fiddle and brought my first book and asked me if I would sign it. And I said yes, and we've been friends ever since. I knew that Loyd had a big back catalog of things that he had written but hadn't published. So I had pushed him into publishing his first book, which was a, uh, a collection of short stories. Very good, by the way. I read them. It's The Space Between the Spaces. I hope I'm saying that right. And yeah, I reviewed that. It was great. I read Malinville. Enjoyed it very well, and I'm going to say, I'm going to say about this book. This is not the kind of book like if I didn't know Loyd, I probably would not have read this book. This is and not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just so far outside of my genre. It's outside of what I write. It's outside of what I like to read. If you know anything about me, I write and read military historical fiction and sometimes just action adventure historical fiction. Lloyd writes what I would call, or what the industry would call urban fantasy. And that doesn't mean like black elves, although it can. Urban fantasy means like um, uh, the world is as we know it. It's a normal, mundane world in which we all live in, but there's something fantastical happening underneath the surface. And I'll tell you, a lot of the '80s movies, which this reminds me of, are are like that, like E.T. or Mannequin or Gremlins, or I could go Goonies. Um, the character lives in a normal, boring world, has a normal, boring life, and then discovers something fantastical, and then the adventure starts. That's very much Lloyd's writing style. That's very much what this book is like. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have picked this up on my own. But Loyd reached out to me and said, "Hey, if I send you my book, will you read it?" And I said, "Of course, we're friends, right?" And I also know that just but just like before, I have read his stuff, even though it's outside of what I normally read, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And this is no different. I make myself read at least 20 minutes a day, um, because I think it's important. Excuse me, having troubles with my mouth. That as a writer, that I'm also reading, and I also believe that you should read in your genre and occasionally outside your genre. Um, but so long story short, I found myself reading this book for pleasure and picking it up and waking up in the middle of the night and reading more and getting excited. And I always say that, I mean, this is kind of rough, but I always say that it takes about the first 100 pages for the story to really pick up and for get excited, and then um, the last 100 pages are like a water slide where you are like locked in and you can't wait to finish it. And this is how I was with this book. I was surprised at just how much I really got sucked into it, how much I liked it, and how much I wanted to finish. And I'll tell you something else, and there's not going to be any spoilers here. In fact, when I wrote my review, I checked it against the back blurb of this book to make sure that I wasn't um, spoiling anything that he didn't already have out there. And I did. I changed some of the language of my review so that I didn't spoil anything. Um, I was surprised. This book had several twists and turns that I did not see coming. And I usually see things a mile away. And that's not a fault of the writers. It's just that I have read so many books, so many stories, seen so many movies that I can usually predict what's going on. Loyd gets me every single time. And and pay attention to everything, because pay attention to the beginning as well. The ending had me. I pretty much had it figured out. Or a part of it, and that's only because Lloyd wants you to figure it out. And I do the same thing too. He does a lot of foreshadowing, so he wants you to kind of have a sense where we're going with this. But the ultimate ending was like, I didn't see that coming. Whoa! All right, let's get to it. This is my review. Um, it's already live. Let's see, is this? There we go. It's all Goodreads is live right away. Amazon usually takes a while, and I've had things rejected, and I had to resubmit them. Especially if I didn't buy it directly. Like this was given to me by Loyd, so I didn't buy it from Amazon. And usually when it's like something like that, I take a picture of it so that they know I have a physical copy. I've had my reviews rejected, never permanently. Sometimes I have to resubmit it. But all that to say that sometimes it could take several days. My review for this was approved and up on the Amazon site within probably about an hour of me submitting it. So that was great. So here we go. Let me switch over to here. All right. Oh, and just one more thing. I always post things to Goodreads and to Amazon, and then to my own blog site, because I figure if I'm going to share the review, I might as well share it on my own platform, because that not only does it bring people to my platform, which I might get more people signing up for my blog, but also at the end, I mean, I always promote the the person who I'm reviewing their book first, and then underneath I review mine. So that's what I'm doing, playing on my own home field. So here we go. Review of Malcolm's Bridge by Loyd Elmore Jr. A small town science fiction. I'm sorry. Let me start again. Small town science fiction on a cosmic scale. Loyd Elmore Jr.'s Malcolm's Bridge combines a nostalgic return to growing up in the 80s with the awe and dread of the fantastical unknown. Malcolm Martin, the only black kid in town, dreams of Star Trek-like adventures in space as an escape from the everyday cruelties of his life. Everything changes when he finds a mysterious object in his closet that defies all logic. The thing quickly becomes a blessing and a burden changing his life and perhaps the very state of his existence forever. I really enjoyed this novel and read it in record time for me because I couldn't put it down. I was overwhelmed with the memories of my own nerdy childhood in the 70s and 80s and was compelled to on it read on as an unworldly I'm sorry and was compelled to read on as the unworldly story unfolded. Malcolm's Bridge reads much like the sci-fi fantasy adventures of the 80s. Man, I'm doing a terrible job of this. Malcolm's Bridge reads much like the sci-fi fantasy adventures of the 80s, like E.T., The Goonies, Gremlins, and the like, where the mundane world is visited upon by the unimaginable. If you're sitting on the fence, I bade you to cross the bridge, jump right in, and read Malcolm's Bridge. Check out Malcolm's Bridge here. And this is that feature. This is one of the reasons why I put this on my WordPress account because it'll actually do previews without leaving the site. So you can preview his book if you don't believe me. And then after that, I have a preview for. Actually, the preview isn't up because this book is in pre-order. So that's it. Just to give you, let me take this down. Present, share screen, and there we go. Yeah. So this is the Amazon. Is it up on your end? Oh, I have to share it. Okay, hang on. Remove. No, add to stage. There we go. There's the Amazon page for it. So like I said, I'm gonna take my sweater off. This is a T-shirt I got for Christmas. Oh no, it's for my birthday. So I'm taking care. Well, I have adopted. Laura's mother is in memory care, and I have adopted her cat, and utterly fallen in love with her. She's a sweet, sweet girl. Sits on my lap and I write. Crawls in bed. All she does is sleep. She's like 14, 15 years old. Crawls in bed with me when I go to bed and cuddles up. I mean, she's just a snuggle bunny. So Laura got me this T-shirt. Nuzzle Lacey right there. She's lying in the sun comes through the front door. So I open up the front door and have the storm door there. So it comes through the window and she lies in the sunlight and really enjoys it. And I enjoy just seeing her there being happy. So this is a book that really affected me. Like the emotional points in it hit me hard, and I got teary-eyed, especially in the end. I got really emotional. I got up this morning, and the first thing I did was finish the book. I was in the final, I think the final chapter, or maybe the final two chapters. So when Laura always calls me on her way to work and we talk, and I was going off about how much I really enjoyed the book. And I was telling her about it. And at some point she said, "Stop telling me about it because I want to read it now." And I said, "Great." So she's going to read it. She's going to do a review as well. I will tell you it's in, without revealing too much, it's in 3 parts. And the main character is Malcolm Martin. And the first part is when he's 12 years old. And like I said, he's not only a nerdy kid, I was a nerdy kid too, that precluded me from having a lot of friends. But he's also the only black kid in town, which makes worse. And that does come into play. And there's certainly an element of racism as this young boy, the only black kid in a small town in Tennessee, who has some friends, very close friends. And I find this to be true, too. As a nerdy outcast kid, and I was a mostly white kid in a very mixed race school, so there wasn't anything like that. But I will tell you that as a nerdy kid, I got popular maybe in the very last years of my public school, but most of it I wasn't. I was a nerd and I was outcast. I'll tell you that nerds have closer friendships. Like the popular kids are friends with everybody in the big popular kid group, but they don't have the intense friendships that the nerds have. It's like foxhole buddies. Like when I lived in Japan, um, I had a very tight circle of friends that were Anglophones like myself from Australia, Britain, and Canada, and places like that. And we have friendships that last today. That I'm still very good friends with those guys, and it's because it kind of when you're surrounded by I went well in some ways enemies or you're an outsider, you tend to cling to each other, and so there is that. So he's 12 years old, and there's three parts. Part one, he's 12 years old, and it's him first discovering this crazy thing that affects his life, and then and there is a story arc there, and a climax, and then part two is 6 years later when he's on the verge of graduating from high school, and he has now had this thing that he discovered and a secret he's been keeping for 6 years, and um, and the consequences of that, and then that has an enormous climax that is unbelievable. Once again, you're like, holy cow, didn't see that coming. And then the part three is years, like 30 or 40 years later, like in I think 2019 or 21 or something like that. And it's kind of like the consequences of what happened in part two and moving on to what will happen in the future. And then a very surprising an ending, I will say this, an ending in which you think you have it all figured out, and that's only because Loyd wants you to know wants you to have certain expectations. But then the epilogue, and you're like, holy cow, is that what happened? It's pretty wild. So anyway, I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, I wouldn't have picked it up on my own. I'm glad that Loyd had pushed me to do it. Laura's gonna read it too. Oh, and he asked me what was my favorite color, and I said orange. So he made me this handmade. I had the word bookmark, bookmark to go with it, and I think it matches that. So anyway, Malcolm's Bridge, yes, I highly recommend it. I think one of the things I want to say about it is Loyd is a very sentimental, emotional guy anyway, and it's in his writing. And there is a if you're like me, if you're a Gen Xer and you grew up in the 70s and the 80s, um, you're going to feel that, especially in the first two parts of this, especially in part one. And it really made me nostalgic for my own childhood because I remembered the emotions and and the way that Malcolm is when he's 12. And I was that way when I was 12. And so it was really uh, 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 Loyd is really good at the warm, fuzzy feeling, and there's plenty of that. There's plenty of nostalgia. And there's a lot of emotional hooks that we'll get into. But what I love about Loyd is, Loyd's genre is, I would say urban fantasy, but there's, he does sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. And so there is a sinister element to things that lie under the surface. Um, a certain amount of dread that go along with the soft fuzzy feelings that you're feeling with nostalgia. And I think that really works well. It's probably one of the reasons why I read it so fast is because you sense it. You sense it lying underneath the surface, and you want to know because it's in contrast a lot. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of bad things that happen in the real world, in the open world, but there's also this underlying dread and foreshadowing of is this thing that the kid finds, is it a bad thing? Is it sinister? Is it ultimately a bad thing? and you got to read all the way to the end to find out. So, excellent. So, what am I reading next? I have a long list of books. It's not a hard list that I have to read everything. I mean, sometimes when it's like a friend, like when it's Loyd, or I read Daniel Green's book just before that, and I know Daniel Green as well. There is, and I did Matthew Harvey's latest novella. I read. He asked me if I would read it. And once again, I said, yeah, absolutely. And I did a review for that. But then I have a bunch of stuff that I'm either interested in or I think I should read. And I think there's like 38 novels on there. And actually, two of them are not just novels. Two of them are actually collections of books. And so on there was Griff Husker. And Griff is, if you're into the action adventure and the military historical fiction stuff, Griff is really big in it. He's written like over 150 novels. I don't know how he does it. He was an English teacher in Britain, and then retired and started writing books. And I think he puts out like 4 books a year. I don't know how. People like that, frankly, piss me off. He's a prolific writer, but he's such a nice guy. I heard him on Rock Paper Swords. He was the guest on that podcast. So was I. And he is also, I've friended him on Facebook, on social media. He's been very kind to me. He knows that I'm an author. He's very encouraging, and he's one. He's one of those big guys that is kind to the little guy, and that goes a long way. And there's a handful of these writers that are like that really endears them to me and makes me kind of faithful to them. So I have never read anything of his, and I just figured I ought to. So he had 2 books at my public library. Yeah, I'm broke, paying for cancer treatment, and just lost my job. So I one of them was an audiobook, and I only do audiobooks if I'm gonna spend a lot of time in the car. I prefer to read the novel. So I'm reading what is it called? Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. That'll be the next one I review. It won't be next week though. It is called there's a book I wanted to read, but for the Kindle it's 659. I just can't justify that right now. Oh, the Saxon Dawn. And Saxon Dawn book 1. Oh, phone call. My phone just died. The phone rang and then it died. Okay, who was that? Oh, it was Laura. Okay, I'll call her back. Saxon Dawn. It is about just shortly after the Romans leave Britain in the 400s. Oh, not shortly. The main characters, the Romans have left Britain before the time of his grandfather, and these are the Britons who have been, they were once a warrior people themselves, and then the Romans came in. Over 400 years. The Romans had disarmed them, made it illegal for them to own weapons unless they're join a legion, and kind of turned them into farmers and not warriors. And once the Romans left, it let them wide open for invasion. And then the Anglo-Saxons, Anglo-Saxons aren't originally from Britain. They're from, I think it's the Frisian Peninsula, it's called, but it's basically where Denmark, Holland, northern Germany, that area right there. The Anglos, the Saxons, the Jutes, the Frisians all invade Britain, and so this book is about that invasion when they first started showing up. And I just started chapter 1, so we'll see. I already like it. It's first person narrative. I don't really like first person narratives. I don't write that way. I don't really like to read them, but I tolerate them. And some of my favorite books are first person narratives, so I'll get to it. And then I'm going to read a Harry Sidebottom novel, which once again, Harry Sidebottom is a huge historical fiction guy. Writes mostly Roman stuff. And once again, Harry Sidebottom is friends with me on Facebook and is very kind to me. Usually when he comments on things with me, he calls me by my name. So I'm once again very touched. And I said, well, I had to read something here. So those are the next two things I'm going to read. Excuse me. As far as me, a couple things. First of all, next week, a gig alert. I'm going to be playing at Master Station. It's a 18th century fortress or fort, and I'll be in period costume, and I'll be with my partner Paul, and we're going to be there the 15th, the 16th, and the 17th from 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock playing. He's a banjo player, and we play old timey music, and there's going to be buses of kids coming. We've been doing it every year. So you can come out and see me there. My novel, The French Fiasco, is coming out on the 16th. It's on pre-order right now. It's only 99 cents in the US, 99 pence in the UK, and whatever the equivalent is everywhere else, all the way up until it comes out, and then it's $4.99. The link to that is below. So that's a great deal. If you're in the UK, the Prussian Prince is only 99 pence. Now, the thing is about that is when the Prussian Prince came out, it was $4.99, and this is basically how it works. My new books come out, they're $4.99, and then once the pre-order for the next new book is available, it drops down to $3.99, and it pretty much stays there. Although we don't do the 99-cent promos or the 99 pence promos until the new book is on pre-order or out. So, for example, when the French Fiasco comes out, I guarantee you it'll be over a year before it has a 99-cent or 99 pence promo. It won't be until Black James comes out on pre-order that book will be reduced to $3.99, and then we'll start doing promos on that. So if you want a deal on it now, get it for 99 cents or the equivalent, because it's going to be $4.99 for a while. And then in the UK, yeah, the Prussian Prince is 99 pence. And that's it as far as the cancer is concerned. I had an appointment today with a nurse, and I had one yesterday as well. I'm told that I'm looking a lot better, that the sores in my mouth from the radiation are healing. I can feel it. I'm still on a feeding tube. I'm going to start going through a speech therapist to teach me how to swallow again. Hoping to be able to eat real food. I mean, I can't even drink water right now. Everything has to go through the feeding tube. And I really want to get back to food. So anyway, that's it. Once again, Malcolm's Bridge, wonderful book. I highly recommend it, even if you don't like me. Even if you don't read this kind of urban fantasy, science fiction stuff, this was a surprisingly good book that I was. I mean, I knew Loyd's a good writer, but it's funny. I still have to read the book to be like, wow, this is better than I thought it'd be. So that's on Amazon, and the link is below if you want to check it out. You can read a what do you call it? A demo, a sample. You can read a sample there, like 10% of the book. So I think that's a great function, because if you're at the bookstore, you can do that as well. All right, I love you guys. If you're a reader, keep reading. If you're a writer, keep writing. And if there's a writer out there that you care about, and you want to help them outside of buying their books, give them as many stars as you can. Hopefully 5 on Amazon and Goodreads. And if you can also write a few lines of a review, it doesn't have to be as long as mine. It could just be like, I really loved it. That's it. That helps the algorithm. The more reviews, the more ratings we have. We want our ratings to be above 4 stars. No one stays at 5 stars very long. I mean, people are at 5 stars is because they have like 10 reviews, But once you get more reviews, you're gonna get a 1-star review, a 1, 2, 3. But hopefully, the majority of reviews are 5s and 4s, so that your average is above 4. Because it becomes under 4, Amazon stops showing it to as many people. And if there's not a lot of reviews, and if there's let's say it in the positive. If you have a high number of ratings and it's over 4, you get shown to more people. If you have a lot of reviews, you get shown to more people. So anyway, I'm gonna go, and I love you guys, and I'll talk to you probably next week. I don't know about what, but we'll figure something out. All right, end stream.